Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show, and welcome to my latest 2021 NFL preview video. Today, I'm going to break down the Kansas City Chiefs, but before I get started, if you're brand new here, this is your first time here, I just got a simple question to ask you. Do you like football? Because if so, you're in the right place. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, ring the bell. That way you can be notified every time I come out with a new video. If you've been here before, you already know the drill. You give me a thumbs up and you drop a comment below. Now, here's how this video is going to work. I'm going to give you 3 things I like about the Chiefs, followed up by 3 things I don't like about the Chiefs, but stick around to the very end where I break down the Vegas over-under and I reveal if I am going to put action down on the Chiefs. So let's get started with the 3 things I like about the Kansas City Chiefs. The first thing I like about the Kansas City Chiefs is obvious. It's Patrick Mahomes, and the NFL did their top 100 list that they do every year, and it's voted on by the NFL players, and the number 1 player was Patrick Mahomes, universally considered the best player in the NFL. If you ask almost every syndicated national sports writer, they'll tell you the same thing. It's a lot different if I tell you Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 player in the NFL. I'm a Chiefs fan. Of course, I'm biased, but basically, Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL. He's going to be the face of the NFL for the decade of the 20s. I'm not going to go into great detail about it. It's just you have the best player in the National Football League here. The second thing I like about the Kansas City Chiefs is the Kelce-Hill combo. Travis Kelce has already earned a spot in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, even if he doesn't play another down. Basically, he's almost unguardable. He runs fantastic routes. He's faster than most linebackers, and at 6'6", you can't put a smaller defensive back on him. Last year, he averaged 7 catches and 94.4 yards a game, which is absolutely ridiculous. It was all-time great numbers. And then you have the number 1 deep threat in the NFL on the field at the same time in Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill can score literally anywhere on the field, so you have to guard the deep ball. And when you put these two together, it means that you might be able to double team one, but that means one gets single coverage. And with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you can't really bracket or double team both of these guys. Just one of these first team All-Pros is dangerous and adds something to an offense, but together, basically there's a reason why Patrick Mahomes is putting up some of the best numbers we've ever seen. Actually, as of right now, they're the best numbers of all time. Now, the third thing I like about the Kansas City Chiefs is they have defensive stars too. It is so hard when talking about the Kansas City Chiefs to talk about their defense, but they actually have one of the better defensive units in the National Football League. They were 10th in points allowed and 16th in yards, which of course is average, but 10th in points is pretty damn good. But they do have 2 defensive stars. They got Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu. And Chris Jones is an absolute monster. At 6'6", 300 pounds. He stuffs the run. He swats down passes. And in 2018, he set an all-time NFL record with 11 consecutive games with a sack. He's actually going to put his versatility on display this year because he's actually going to play defensive end instead of his normal defensive tackle spot. Of course, when they go to nickel and dime formations, he's going to switch in the inside. So his versatility is going to be really on display big time this year. Then you got first team All-Pro Tyrann Mathieu, who's has 10 interceptions over the last 2 years, first among NFL safeties. And Tyrann Mathieu can play the deep single high safety. He can play in a box. Then he's a slot corner. And the issue with these 2 players is not only do you get an insane amount of production, you get an insane amount of versatility. These guys line up all over the field, especially with Chris Jones lining up at defensive end. In a base package. You really don't know where these 2 are really going to line up, and they can do so many different things that it really causes a lot of problems for opposing offenses. So just to recap the 3 things I like about the Kansas City Chiefs, you got Patrick Mahomes, the Kelce-Hill combo, and you still got 2 really big defensive stars on the defensive side of the ball. Now, 3 things I don't like about the Kansas City Chiefs. The first thing I don't like about the Kansas City Chiefs is three rookie offensive linemen. Now, Lucas Nang, the starting right tackle, was drafted in 2020, but he sat out all of last year, for COVID. So basically, you do got three brand new offensive linemen, center and right guard and right tackle. Now, Kansas City has had success with rookie offensive linemen under Andy Reid, but this year it's Super Bowl or bust. Anything less than a Super Bowl victory would be considered a failure. So you have three rookie offensive linemen and a $500 million quarterback behind you. This is 100% a concern and something that's going to be tested quite often by opposing defenses. The second thing I don't like, and you can see this right here, is a drop-off in sack production. Even though the Chiefs tied for the NFL lead in sacks in 2018 after losing the AFC Championship game, they went ahead and fired defensive coordinator Bob Sutton, then they replaced him with Steve Spagnuolo. For those of you that don't know, Steve Spagnuolo coached in Philly with Andy Reid. He was the defensive coordinator in Philly and had some head coaching experience and worked with Andy Reid for quite a bit. So these two were very familiar with each other. And it's kind of funny because if you watch my Bills video, I thought the Bills should have added a defensive tackle. And I think Kansas City should have added a defensive end, but instead Kansas City added a defensive tackle, Jaron Reed, to a one-year deal. And they're going to move him as the starting defensive tackle and take Chris Jones, who normally plays defensive tackle. He's going to move outside as a defensive end. Now he'll play inside and sub packages, but it's kind of interesting because what I was really hoping that the Chiefs would do is get a defensive end, pair him with Frank Clark, and then have Chris Jones wreak havoc in the middle like they did in 2018 when they were tied for the NFL lead in sacks. Instead, what they're doing is they're putting Reed on the inside. Now, I do like Jaron Reed quite a bit. He's on a one-year deal, so if he does pan out, the Chiefs defense will work out great. But bottom line, though, you got Clark and Jones as your two major pass rushers, and Reed did have a season where he had over 10 sacks, but as an interior defensive lineman, he's not going to really get that major sack production. And if he doesn't pan out, the Chiefs are going to struggle to get 32 sacks in 2021. And the third thing I don't like about the Kansas City Chiefs is no wide receiver number 2 is on the team anymore. Since Patrick Mahomes has taken over as the starting quarterback the last 3 years, he's had Sammy Watkins as the wide receiver number 2 on this team to pair with Tyreek Hill. And of course you have Travis Kelce as the tight end. And if you look at the all-time great offenses in the NFL, you have multiple targets. You know, the Air Coryell offense, you had Kellen Winslow with Charlie Joyner, John Jefferson, and then Wes Chandler. And then the greatest show on turf, Marshall Faulk led the team in receiving 2 of those 3 years between 99 and 2001. He had 87, 81, and 83 receptions along with Pro Bowl receivers Isaac Bruce and Terry Holt. And then he also had that 99 season where he had 1,000 yards receiving to go with this 1,000 yards rushing. Bottom line, all-time great offenses have multiple wide receivers, where the Chiefs this year without Watkins only have the one big play receiver. Now, Watkins always had issues staying healthy, but when he was in the lineup, he was always option number 3, and the Chiefs offense was visibly better with Watkins in the lineup. Not only did the Chiefs lose Sammy Watkins to Baltimore, they didn't even replace him. They're really hoping that Miracle Hardman, Byron Pringle, or Demarcus Robinson will step up. Now, all 3 of these guys have shown flashes, but none of these guys are consistent, and none of these guys are really a legitimate number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. I think what the Chiefs are really hoping is that 2020 rookie running back Carlos Edwards-Helaire, who in 13 games had 36 catches, really picks up the pace. Part of the reason the Chiefs drafted him in the first round was that he caught a lot of passes in college. So just to recap the 3 things I don't like about the Chiefs, I don't like the 3 rookie offensive linemen, the declining sack production, and no wide receiver number 2. Now, This is the advanced part of the show. This is the advanced class. This is the money-making part. This is where I break down the Vegas over-under, and I reveal if I'm going to put action down on the Kansas City Chiefs. The over-under for the Kansas City Chiefs is 12.5, and if you like over 12.5, it's even money. And under 12.5 is negative 120, which means that you have to wager $120 to win 100. And for the Chiefs to win the AFC West is negative 300. So you have to wager $300 to win 100. Now, if you like over 12.5 or under, it really comes down to the first 7 weeks of the season, because that's the toughest stretch of the Chiefs' schedule by a considerable margin. They have 5 playoff opponents plus their 2 biggest threats in the AFC, Baltimore and Buffalo, in my opinion. And then the other 3 playoff teams, you got Cleveland, the Washington football team, and Tennessee. You do have the Chargers and Eagles for weeks 3 and 4. And here's the drill. If Kansas City can come out of this 5-2 or better, they will definitely win over 13 games. And the reason why I say this is because out of their remaining 10 games, they only have 2 playoff opponents from 2020, and both of them come to Arrowhead. Now, last year, Kansas City was 8-0 on the road, but you kind of got to throw that stat away considering, with everything that was going on. But since Mahomes has taken over as the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs in 2018, he's only lost on the road 4 times. So my suggestion is that 12.5 is even money through Westgate, but if you can find 12 somewhere, I strongly suggest you take 12. Now, last year they won 14. They would have won 15, but they rested all their starters the last week of the season. The previous 2 years, they were 12-4. I actually am going to take action on over 12.5. And I'm not going to put a lot of action down, but I do like over 12.5. I really think that the first 7 weeks are going to be key, but Andy Reid's always been famous for starting the season strong. I hate negative 300 to win the AFC West, but no AFC West team has had a winning record over the last 2 years. I'm actually going to put a little bit on the Chiefs to win the AFC West, even though I absolutely hate negative 300. So I am going to put a little bit down on over 12.5. I'm going to look for 12. If I can find 12, I might put a lot down, but if the best I can do is 12.5, especially at even money, I'll put a little down. And I will put a little down on the Chiefs to win the AFC West. Both these bets are going to be very small. Now, listen, if you haven't already, man, hit that subscribe button. This really helps me out. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. So it would really mean the world to me. So hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And by the way, if you've been here before, you already know the drill, man. Give me a thumbs up, like the video, and comment below. I want to hear what your opinion is of the Kansas City Chiefs. These videos are created to be a conversation starter. I offer my opinion, but I want to hear from you, and I want to hear what you think. Tomorrow, I'm going to break down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I will see you tomorrow.